It has truly been a boon both for my business and my personal life. I met some of my very dearest friends here.
Lubrizol's been very successful, and Cleveland State has been a huge part of that.
Nance College of Business, the most effective business education in the region.
WMMS during the 70s and 80s changed the way rock rolled across this nation. John Gorman, former program director for the station, has just written a new book about it. A book Bill Baranke couldn't put down.
Hi, this is Dan. We have a 25-song music marathon on WMMS.
The early 70s, a great time to be a Buzzard.
What else would you expect to see flying over Cleveland in those days? This was the 70s. This is when the city was going into default. I mean, the city was in terrible, terrible shape. And it was a dying city. You know, all these Fortune 500 companies were moving out.
But hope was found on the radio.
The city itself was in bad shape, and it was, all kinds of things were going wrong, and it was sort of the joke, and it was, everyone was making fun of Cleveland. But the one thing that really caught on, I think, was this rock and roll spirit, and I think a lot of that was due to MMS's influence.
Influential beyond the borders, WMMS grew to national prominence. An amazing feat, considering Denny Sanders and John Gorman couldn't even get anyone to listen to The Idea.
We knocked on every door of every radio station in the city saying, we have this idea for a format, and slam. Nobody wanted to talk to us. So, suddenly I'm here, it was July 1973, and Denny and I say to each other, hey, I think we can pull it off here.
Things couldn't have timed out better. See, sister station WHK-AM was huge, so WHK-FM became WMMS.
The FM was still considered the byproduct. In fact, early on in FM was called Find Me. That's what it meant. But while they're putting all this money and effort into WHK, nobody was watching the store on the FM, and allowed us to develop WMMS into what it became.
With just 5 months to prove themselves or become a country station, the Buzzard spread its wings with an approach unlike any other in the country.
We said, we're going to take this wide, and we're going to play good R&B music, we'll play some oldies, we'll play some stuff that is pure pop music, and, we'll put it all together and see what happens.
What happened, WMMS became a major force in not just Cleveland, but in breaking acts, like some guy named Springsteen.
They really started promoting him. Kid Leo certainly was a big Bruce fan and Bruce supporter, and they started playing his records, and this became, and then he played several shows here over the course of a short span period of time, and this became his sort of home away from home. And MMS did that with a lot of artists. I mean, I think David Bowie, I think, played his first U.S. concerts in Cleveland. Roxy Music, Lou Reed, a lot of artists that MMS got behind.
The personalities grew with the station.
Hi, this is Dee in WMMS Control.
Jeff and Flash in the morning, Kid Leo, Murray Saul, all these great personalities, Matt the Cat, and that was just a wonderful thing too, is you really identified with the DJs, and so you sort of felt like you had a relationship with them.
In The Buzzard, inside the glory days of WMMS and Cleveland rock radio, Gorman shares stories and trade secrets, like how WMMS was able to introduce music before its time.
John had this thing under his desk called the Switch. When record company promo man would come in to play him an album, sometimes a couple months before release or whatever, he'd flip the switch and a tape recorder in the other room would tape the song, and then they'd be able to get it on the air.
I'd always be like, I really, let me hear the next cut. This is really good. And I'm saying, even if I don't like the cut, I'm saying, well, I want to have the whole album.
The heydays may be long gone, but the Buzzard's biggest legacy stands tall on the shore of Lake Erie.
A large part of the reason the Rock Hall is here is because of the rock culture that Cleveland had back in the, 60s and 70s and the early 80s. USA Today did a poll of where the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame should be. MMS, really got all their listeners to vote and all that, and we got like over 100,000 votes to Memphis was second with 30,000 or something like that. So I mean, MMS really, they really got the city behind the idea, and that really, I think, is part of what convinced the folks in New York to come here.
Special times in a special place.
People who come into Cleveland say, there's nothing like this anywhere else. And how come my radio station isn't playing those kind of things? We pushed it to the limit, and we never were satisfied. It was like as soon as we had one victory, we were on to the next one.
FM. Bringing Northern Ohio to your door every month, Northern Ohio Live magazine's proud to support Live from the Circle. Dining, theater, basically all that's unique to our region can be found on NorthernOhioLive.com. Arts, culture, and living. Northern Ohio Live.